Hi, this is Maria Sanchez with the Maria Sanchez Show here on KADYTV.com. We have in studio with us Scott Harris. Scott is the owner of Mustang Marketing, which is located in the east end of the county. Scott, thank you for making the trip to our studios. Now, Scott is not here to talk about Mustang Marketing, however. You'll notice that both he and I have our voter guides out. We are going to attempt to be a primer for all of the propositions on the ballot in California so that when you are looking for additional resources or information, you can come right here and hopefully get the answers that you're looking for. We're going to endeavor as much as possible to keep personal opinion out of the discussion, to reveal the facts as much as possible, but obviously human beings do have opinions, and so we're going to try and keep that to ourselves. However, knowing that that's the case, and if anybody has opinions, it would be this man.
I will try to keep them down for the next 9.5 minutes.
So thank you again, Scott, for being here.
It's a privilege. Always is to work with you. I'm looking forward to the
so
conversation.
Much.
Absolutely.
Scott was my original political correspondent when I had my morning drive radio program and then KKZZ, and I have had the utmost respect for you from that point and continue to, obviously, as the fact that you're here with us today. And so we might as well start with the beginning. We'll go through them numerically.
Okay,
and
perfect.
So that would be number
Perfect.
19.
19, which is the one I think people are most interested in discussing.
And isn't that the truth?
Yeah.
And so legalizing marijuana under California law, but not federal law.
Yes.
So we're looking to skirt that.
Well, you know what? We're looking to skirt it, but that's one of the big drawbacks is that we can't. It's a quick read, so I'll read it.
Go ahead.
Legalizes marijuana under California, but not federal law. Permits local governments to regulate and tax commercial production, distribution, and sale of marijuana. There's 4 or 5 subpoints that we'll get to before the end of the segment. But the critical thing to this is it has no impact on federal law. It will still be illegal federally. And the Attorney General, Eric Holder, has made it very clear. It came out last week and said, if this law passes, we will absolutely send people out and prosecute. So we are setting ourselves up as a further conflict with the federal government. We've fought this thing before. In 1996, we passed Prop 215, which is commonly known as medical marijuana, which, of course, really isn't medical marijuana. It's anybody who has a headache and wants to smoke a joint, but there you go. And that's not opinion, by the way, so we're clear. 2005, the Supreme Court came out and said that the feds could still prosecute even the medical marijuana facilities. They've been kind of lax about doing that, but they wanted to make sure that they maintained the right to do that. And in 2009, the feds said that they wouldn't prosecute medical marijuana. They wouldn't ignore the law. So it's always interesting to me when law enforcement people tell us which laws they're going to choose to ignore and which ones they're going to choose to enforce. But they said, we'll let you have your medical marijuana. We're going to continue to maintain that it's illegal, but we're not going to prosecute. So that's kind of the tentative agreement that we reach with the feds. This, if we pass Prop 19, Eric Holder has come out and said, absolutely not. That crosses the line. We will send people out to prosecute. Now, I don't think they're going to go after you or me for growing our 25 square foot, which is what it allows. It allows you or me to grow 25 square feet on our property and to have 1 ounce of marijuana in our possession. That's what we get to do legally.
If 19 passes.
If 19 passes. It also then allows local governments to regulate and tax commercial production, distribution, and sale of marijuana to people 21 years and older. They kind of treat it now like alcohol. Mm-hmm. So what would happen is the 458 cities in the state of California will then they would each set up their own laws and regulations, which is a nightmare. One of the things we'll talk about this is not just philosophically about whether marijuana should be legal or not. If your belief is the answer is yes, you still have to talk about whether 19 is a good law or not. I mean, and I don't believe it is, and we'll talk about why factually over the course of the segment. But what Eric Holder has said is we will come down and we'll clamp down on, Sanchez marijuana on the street corner of, Santa Clara and California Street. That they're not going to allow. It's hard for me to believe they're going to send federal agents into my home over my 6 plants and an ounce of dope, but they do not want people opening them up like 7-Elevens. And that's where the feds are going to draw the line. So that becomes a huge issue with Prop 19 is I guess we can make it legal in the state of California, but when the feds have announced they're still going to come after us, that becomes a bit of a battle. The other thing, one of the reasons that it's not such a great law, in my view, and in the view of others, but obviously there are disagreements, 458 different cities in the state of California. According to Prop 19, if it passes, each of those cities sets up their own regulations on how many, we used to call them head shops when we were kids. How many of these they're going to allow to open, and how much they're going to tax, and what are the rules, and can they be open Friday nights, and can they be open on Sundays, and all these different things, and every city has to set up their own laws. So the regulations are going to be a nightmare. There will not be a statewide regulation or set of regulations that will be the same for Ventura as they will for Fillmore, as they will for Santa Monica.
But that's up to the cities.
That's up to each individual city.
Each individual city. It's not a nightmare per se. It would be a nightmare for enforcement when you go from one city to another.
Exactly. It's the enforcement issue that becomes the problem. And also, we talk about it not having a cost impact or even possibly a positive impact. And one of the sales points of Prop 19 is that we'll sell it and tax it. Right? We make a lot of money off alcohol. We make a lot of money off lottery. It's sin tax.
Right.
It's why so many people are pushing to legalize prostitution. Same thing. We can't stop it, so let's legalize it and tax it.
Right.
So that's the idea. But then you have to figure out which cities are going to do, how are we going to do that? So if Ventura has one tax and Oxnard has another tax, maybe nobody opens in Ventura and everybody opens in Oxnard. So then Oxnard drops their tax. Now everybody runs over and opens up, and it just becomes a bit of a nightmare because it's not just an across-the-board state thing. But that's one thing. I mean, either we figure that out or we don't. But the big stumbling block is going to be the feds. You open up your marijuana shop, and it's not a medical marijuana shop. It's just marijuana for anyone over 21, just like opening a bar. And the feds are going to shut you down, and that's going to be a huge legal battle.
But it seems to me that Prop 19 was conceived for the individual, not for commerce, even though they said that...
Well, but commerce is in there.
Right, that you'll be able to profit from it because of that.
It is. I think the ultimate goal is for the individuals. Is if you and I want to grow, we can grow 25 square feet for personal use. That's the rule. And so, we grow at 25 square feet, which, of course, I have no personal experience in this area, but I have read that 25 square feet can adequately take care of a small family. So
it'll provide a year's worth.
So they should be okay. I, of course, avoided all of this. Like Mr. President Clinton, I never inhaled. But I understand that 25 square feet is far more than adequate for anybody that wants to grow for personal use. But they did throw the commercial part in there, which then is the part that now challenges, it's a direct challenge to the feds. Governor Schwarzenegger is afraid of this. So one of the things that he did last week is he came out and he dropped personal use of marijuana from a misdemeanor to an infraction, which means no one's even going to bother enforcing it. So if you get stopped and you've got a half ounce of baggie in your pocket, no one's going to write you up for it. And the goal of that is to make it as close to legal as you possibly can without making it legal, so the Prop 19 would go away. So that then those who are against Prop 19 could argue and say, we don't really need it anymore because the governor's made it almost nothing to get caught anyway.
Right.
It's not even a speeding ticket.
Now, do you want to talk a little bit about some of the money that's gone into the support of Prop 19?
Actually, the Prop 19 is interesting because it's the least amount of money of any group has gone into Prop 19, both for and against. And if you look at the Democratic Party did not take a position on this proposition. It's the only one they didn't. And polls show that Democrats are 2-1 in favor of Prop 19. And my belief is the Democratic Party doesn't want to take a no position because they know their party is for it, but they don't want to take a yes position because it would allow, say, Meg Whitman to say, my God, that whole party is soft on crime, vote for me. So of the 9 propositions, this is the only one the Democratic Party did not take a position on. It's interesting to note that all current public safety officers, sheriffs and police chiefs and whatnot, are against it, but many of the retired ones are for it. And again, my belief is if you're the sheriff of Ventura County or you're the DA of Ventura County, there's no way you can get reelected to a public safety position if somebody could say you're soft on drugs. So, but the guys that are retired are coming out. If you go through your pamphlet, by the way, those who write in support of Prop 19 are actually retired police chiefs. And so you look at that and say, okay, Jocelyn Elder, who was the Surgeon General of the United States, has come out in favor of this. Current Surgeon General, of course, won't because then they would be unemployed.
Right.
So it's an interesting battle that's happening and shaping up. Right now, every age group is in favor of Prop 19. Younger, of course, by huge numbers. 55 and older, it's close, but nonetheless still in favor. So it appears that it has a reasonably good chance to pass.
Interesting. Scott Harris on the Maria Sanchez Show, Prop 19, and we will be right back. Harris in studio with us.